Kevin Wesley is starting a ministry? What's going on, party people? The place to be. I go by the name of the BK Apologist, transmitting all the way live. New York is the city. Brooklyn is the borough. What's good? What's popping? Off the rip, Mr. Phil Fox with the super chat. Adam Coleman, presidents.
Shout out to Phil Fox, man. That's what's up.
Oh man,
he's got my vote.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy Thursday. Happy pre-bodega day. Let me say what's up to the party people in the chat. JP. Round 2, what it do? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We got D'Arte Jameson. I hope I'm saying that right. We got Mr. Green in the building. We got Bodega Lady Dean New. We got Most Excellent Theophilus. Yes, yes, yes. Looking good, looking good. As always, please like, share, and subscribe. Share the link. Tell a friend to tell a friend that it's him again. If you want to support this online ministry, you can hit me on PayPal. And if you want to be a monthly supporter, you can become a Patreon where you can get an assortment of study aids to help you in your personal Bible study. And once again, I am joined with some incredible apologists. And we're going to start with Mr. Alex McElroy himself. What's going on, Alex?
What's up, bro? Good to be here. Yet again.
Once again.
Yeah, it's like an endless stream of content available with this guy. So
pretty much. And next to you, we got Mr. True ID himself, Adam Coleman. What's going on, sir?
Yeah. Did I do it right, man?
That was excellent. You sound very authentic New York
BKNY yurt.
Yes, very good.
So doing good, man. Doing good. Just came from Chi-Town, man. Hanging out with my man Alex McElroy, man. Shout out to Pastor Glenn out there too, man. We had a good time, man. So I'm still on cloud 9, bro.
Nice. That's what's up.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, and this is the first time you guys met in person, yes?
Yeah.
It's crazy with the pandemic, man. Like, you know, I've been talking to probably out of everybody. I've been talking to Adam the longest. I don't even remember how I even found you.
I don't know.
But I was actually on my way. I remember the first time we talked, I was in my car on the phone. And I was going to an interfaith dialogue where I talked with imams and like Hindu, and it was a weird. So I'm talking to you, and I'm going to this, I guess, apologetic related thing. But that must have been years ago. It's definitely pre-pandemic. So.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it's at least 4. Is it 4? Maybe more years than that, or
maybe.
Yeah, that's wild, man. That's wild. But yeah, it was good kicking it, man. Like in person. That's the beautiful thing about the UA community, man. Like, you know, we meet a lot of people online, and then, you know, just have these opportunities to meet in person, man. It just makes it even more dope, man. It was fun. It was fun. We didn't get a chance to ball though. I mean, I kind of wondered about that. You know, the crossover is always ready. But I'm just saying.
Wow.
I'm not saying I'm the reason we didn't ball. I'm just saying I noticed that we didn't end up balling. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I noticed it too.
Yeah. That's terrible. But, you know, we are here once again to give commentary on a very interesting individual by the name of Kevin Wesley. And it's actually a very short video. And he is embarking on creating a ministry, which is a very weird term for him to be using if you're familiar with Kevin Wesley's stance on God and the Bible. So before we even get into it, what were your initial thoughts when you first saw the video? Let's start with Alex.
It's hard to say with this, like, it's all over the place every time. So actually I started watching another video in preparation for this one. And then excuse me, that one's all over the place. And I know he doesn't realize it. And I know his people don't realize it. But that's kind of the point. That's kind of the problem. I was rewatching the video we're going to play tonight today. I had already watched it, but within the first 2 minutes, my fingers are just like furiously tightening because if you take these things to their logical conclusion, forget that. If you just listen to, you don't even have to know anything about philosophy, just the logic, the illogic, the hypocrisy, specifically with this one. And I think this one's a little different than when he was trying to break down the Kalam and when he was trying to talk about merit, like that. That's different. But this one, it's just illogical on so many levels. So
Cool.
that was my thought.
Mr. Coleman, your thoughts?
Oh no, man. I mean, it just, I think it's interesting because we'll see. I mean, we talk about it all the time. I mean, people borrowing from the biblical worldview to either make their case against Christianity, or in this case, replace Christianity with something else, yet and still borrowing from the biblical worldview for certain principles, and in this case, practices as well. Which I think is very fascinating. So I think for me, the thing that jumped out is just kind of seeing that theme from not only what he's proposing to do, but then also some of the claims, the truth claims that he's making. I thought it just is constant, borrowing. So I think this really is going to make for an interesting discussion along those lines, man. But I will say this, one thing that is really dope, again, being in Chicago this past weekend, I mean, the name of the event was called Fact Check. And, I feel like this kind of goes like right along with it, man, is that, you have other worldviews making claims, and what you'll see time and time again is that they're making great claims that their worldview, basically they're making great claims that the worldview can't cash. You know what I'm saying? They're trying to write checks with their worldview that the worldview can't cash, whether it be in regard to morality or whether it be in regard to purpose, or in this case, or in terms of building community, which I find fascinating. So, I feel like we'll see that theme throughout the whole, video, just him constantly writing worldview checks that his worldview can't cash. That's what stuck out to me.
True indeed, true indeed. So let's get into it. But before we show the video, let me just put this up real quick. Fair use is allowed for purposes of criticism, news reporting, teaching, and parody, which doesn't infringe of copyright under 17 USC 107. And we'll definitely be critiquing tonight. So,
right.
With that being said, we're going to start playing the video. So,
cool. Hey, man, shout out to
Shine, beautiful souls.
Hey, shout out to my guy Leroy Hill in the chat, man. That's my dude, man. That's the homie right there. Good to see him in here, man.
All right, cool.
All right, there we go.
Rise and shine, beautiful souls. Listen, I have great.
Off the rip.
Wait, already?
Off the rip. Beautiful souls.
Throwing the flag, right?
Beautiful souls?
Yep.
What does he mean? What does he mean when he says souls?
Good question.
That's a good question.
Right? Because souls is an immaterial presence that makes us us, right? Why is he using that term? I don't understand.
I don't know. Now, here's what's interesting. I mean, you're right. Off the rip, we got a situation here because this is a gentleman who claims to not be a believer in God. He's adamantly opposed to that idea. Now, here's the interesting thing about it is that if we're talking about souls, right? If you really are alluding to some sort of immaterial, substance, I'm saying that is the seat of consciousness, if you would. That's what you're really alluding to. Then I think already, if you take God out of the picture, you already have a problem. I'm saying, because I would argue that the best explanation for immaterial souls that have consciousness would be an ultimate consciousness. I'm saying, like, i.e. an unembodied mind, aka God. But if you're talking about some sort of immaterial substance that again is the seat of consciousness, what I'm saying, cognitive faculties and all those kind of things, if you don't have God in the picture, that's what 0.001 seconds. What I'm saying, then I think you have a hard way to go to establish some sort of basis for consciousness. I'm saying, now if he's talking about souls in some sort of like kind of equivocation sort of a way, where he really means something that's just physical, then I think he has even bigger problems, because I don't think you can ground your cognitive faculties successfully anyway in just in the physical world, i.e., if you have determinism in place. So already, you know what I'm saying, you're right. I mean, we got a problem. We got a problem
already,
bro. He doesn't know what he means. It's just a word to him. Like let's stop the cat. There's no ontological nature to the words when he says words half the time.
Wow.
He talks about the other video I was watching in prepping for this video. He was telling people about like, why do you feel like you attract the same type of person, right? Mm-hmm. And he was saying sometimes to prepare for meeting a certain type of person that he knows that he doesn't get along with, he'll go outside and he'll pray to the universe.
What?
Yeah, like so who are you talking to? Like, not who, what are you talking to?
Right.
So you don't believe there's a God up there, but you believe the universe can hear you and answer you. But the question that he missed in that whole little thing that's not even in this video is the question we ask, the question scientists ask, is what created the universe? Because the universe is not eternal. So you're not even going back to the original source by everyone's definition. I don't care if they're atheist or Christian. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't match. Like, his words that he uses are not attached to a definition. Right. I don't even think he could define soul for you.
Well, it's more about rhetorical flourishing than anything with soul.
Not human flourishing?
Not human flourishing. No, sir. It's everything he says, I feel like, is for rhetorical effect. Regardless, he could care less, it seems to me, about what the words actually mean. He's hoping to invoke certain emotions by using certain words and phrases. Right. So that's what he's mostly concerned about, it seems.
And it's all throughout the video, man. And as I've said, this is one thing I was going to say, and I'm already getting ahead of myself. But here's the thing. Now, I've tried to. I don't even want to say this dude's name because he's irritating as all get out. But so when I was having that dialogue with Shaka Atmos, you know what I'm saying, I said this, and I think I said something similar in the dialogue with Jabari as well. But what you have is people who really haven't thought through their own worldview. And so, like Alex said, like if you take them into deep waters, they don't even know like where certain terms and concepts fit in relation to other things that they affirm or believe or talk about or whatever. They have no idea. They're just talking. I mean, it's all surface level. Right. But really, and I would say this should be a caution for us as believers. I'm saying if we're going to get into apologetics or just if we want a more robust understanding of the faith, it's helpful to understand how various aspects of reality and the human experience trace back to the foundations of our worldview. So whether we're dealing with the existence of the universe, whether we're dealing with morality, whether we're dealing with consciousness, whether we're dealing with just complexity or order rather in the universe, like all of these features of the world, I'm saying if a competent worldview, if you will, or I say a robust worldview should be able to tie those strands together back to some sort of source, you know what I'm saying, and have it all make sense, have it be coherent and consistent and so forth. But these dudes don't do that. They just hitting you with it's like a shell game, you know what I mean? They just kind of throwing terms out, and they're counting on you to not ask critical questions to make them show their work, you know what I'm saying, in terms of how they get to this or that conclusion about things.
Absolutely. So let's continue. Adam, go ahead.
News for y'all this rise. Many of y'all have been encouraging me to start our own ministry, and I'm going to do just that. I recognize, and we, above all things, recognize that there is a need for it, okay? Many of us are disillusioned, and we've lost our sense of self and purpose through adopting what somebody else told us God has for us, okay? Due to accepting someone else's matrix, we are lost, and we cannot access the greatest parts of ourselves.
Stop it.
Okay? Rising is about being the best.
All right. Look. Right? He says, due to accepting someone else's matrix, we are lost and we cannot access the greatest parts of ourselves, right? Let's go to one of his arch nemesis, Miriam Webster. All right?
The arch nemesis.
It's his arch nemesis. The actual words that he used. The essential meaning of matrix, something such as a situation or a set of conditions in which something else develops or forms. Right? This is the actual one, I think the main definition that he's alluding to here. The problem here is, right? He says, due to accepting someone else's matrix, we are lost and we cannot access the greatest parts of ourselves. So what's his answer to that? Accept my matrix.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
We can't accept someone else's, but what we need to do is accept my matrix.
Right.
Really? This is what we're doing?
Why should we? Why should we accept his diagnosis of the problem? Like, he's diagnosed the problem as we've accepted somebody else's matrix, but he wants us to accept his, and he's not giving us any reason. Like, we're just supposed to take him at his word, I guess.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
That's all I want to say, man. Alex, you want to chime in on that real quick?
Nah, I'm gonna wait, man, because it's gonna be like every 10 seconds.
Yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot.
I mean, he did say that we're out here, we're lost, we're disillusioned, and so on and so forth. And I think that it is the case that you do have, and we've talked about it before. It is the case that you do have a lot of people out here today who are asking really tough questions. You know what I'm saying, and they are asking meaningful questions, as to say, and they're not looking to organized religion, if you will, for those kind of answers. Statisticians refer to them as the Nuns, N-O-N-E-S. And that is a growing number of people. Now, here's the thing. I would encourage you that if you are in the position that Kevin Wesley describes, then here's what you should not do. And I'm saying this whether you be dealing with Kevin Wesley, whether you're dealing with me, some pastor, any world, Hebrew Israelites, Muslim, anybody of any worldview. Don't just take people's word for it. Don't just take people's word for it. I'm saying, use your brain, investigate people's claims and see how they stack up. You know what I'm saying? If Adam Coleman says something that you can demonstrate doesn't stack up, then don't accept what I say. That's fine. You know what I'm saying? But I would say then have that same skepticism for the Kevin Wesleys of the world. Don't just, he's Kevin Wesley and he's got a cool beard and a genie hat, and just accept what he says. Like, don't do that. Be skeptical of him too, right? Equal opportunity skepticism.
Facts.
Right.
Yep.
All right. So let's continue with
part of yourself, family, and we're going to show the world that if you rise, rising is about being the best part of yourself, family, and we're going to show the world that if you rise, due to accepting someone else's matrix, we are lost and we cannot access the greatest parts of ourselves. Okay, rising is about being the best part of yourself, family, and we're going to show the world that if you rise, if you channel yourself, you will change the world. That if you heal yourself, then the world will be healed. If you change your mind, then you will change the world. Life is not about outreach, it's about inreach. Okay, so we're calling it the Rise Inreach Center. Okay, and I need all of you guys helping to manifest this.
Right there. Alex, you want to go ahead? Go ahead.
Yeah, so this is I wanted him to get it all out, but now I'm gonna go in a little bit on the collective of what he just said. Let me see how I should start. So channel yourself, look within, you will change the world. All of this is just a rebranding of Eastern mysticism, Eastern spirituality. I don't really have time to go into all of that. I mean, people can kind of look that stuff up for themselves. Exactly. So that has been the mark of every, at least American guru. They take a little bit of the Eastern spirituality, mysticism, religions, or any of that nature, and bring it over here and repackage it because we're not used to it. So it sounds deep, and you brand it as the anti-Christianity, the anti-Islam, anti-Judaism, the super woke, however you do it. Like, he's just following the playbook. So that's one part of it. But let's deal with the actual factual, philosophical, like you said, dictionary level issues here. And I'm only going to deal with it on one component because we'd be here all night if we really unpacked all of the ramifications of, even if what he said is true, it's unlivable. That being aside, number one, channel yourself is a semantically null sentence. It doesn't actually mean anything. Like, that's why words matter. Dictionary matters. You cannot channel yourself. You are yourself. There's nothing that you can go in you and pull out that's not already you doing what you're doing. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, now I sound crazy because I'm trying to explain him. Like, I literally dropped a video tonight, and y'all can go watch it on my channel, Relentless Pursuit of Purpose. But it was dealing with the dichotomy or the difference between joy and happiness. And does God just want us to be happy? Spoiler alert, no. The goal of life is not happiness. And so every guru had this is part of the playbook, right? And when I say guru, I'm throwing cults in there. It's always about I'm throwing prosperity preaching in there. It's always about how do you get the best life here on earth, right? It's how do I make myself better, happier, wealthier, like whatever it is I need to elevate. I need to enjoy more than what I'm already currently at. Now that's extremely appealing. Who doesn't want that? But the problem is it reality, and is it what God promised us? And if it's not what God promised us, it's not going to happen. And then you're going to feel dejected and some kind of way about whoever told you these things. That's why Adam had to detox, for a while from the word of faith stuff. So these types of ideas have consequences, and that's why for everybody who's watching, if you're a fan of him, look, we do this because ideas have consequences. There's this quote I don't have in front of me. I think it's Joel Spreckman said, let's keep in mind that the Nazi regime was not born in a war ministry room or a defense ministry room. It was born in colleges and universities where these ideas were not challenged or checked. And those ideas led to what we saw. It always starts up here. On that note, he's kind of right. The problem is, where are we getting our ideas from? So here's where I want to like unpack it for people. So you will change the world. Okay, cool. That sounds great. Cool. Thank you for the encouragement, bro. Change it to what? Like, this is the question that we never get answered. Nobody asks him that question. I don't know if people ask him that question, but I know he hasn't answered it. Here's the problem. I don't care if you're a conscious community, atheist, I don't care what you are. There has to be a telos. There has to be a goal or direction. You cannot say I'm getting better unless you know where you're going to. I gave this example at the conference this weekend. If I take a test in school and I get an 80%, or no, I get a 60%, I know I didn't do well because I know the standard is 100%, right? We all get that. Now, let's say that's the practice test. And then later I take the midterm test or whatever, and I get an 80. I know I got better because I'm closer to the goal. It's not rocket science. There is no goal in a godless universe. And that's the problem. That's one problem, I'll say. So there's 4 things. I'm not going to do all 4, but when we talk about, let's say, the moral argument, there are 4 components even to be able to talk about it at all. So we would talk about moral facts, moral knowledge, moral rationality, and moral transformation. So I'm only going to touch on moral transformation. So the fact that murder is wrong, I think, like, we agree. Everyone agrees, regardless of your worldview. So I'm not going to really do that. The transformation part is problematic. So the Bible talks repeatedly about I'm pressing toward the mark. I'm being sanctified. Like, there's a process. There's a telos. There's a goal, right, and embedded in there. And so, to Adam's point, that seems to be coherent based on what I've always experienced, what I've always seen, and what I know I need. That I don't know where I'm supposed to go necessarily, maybe pre-Christ, but I know I'm not where I should be. Okay. So this process is a felt reality. In fact, he's doing this. He's doing his ministry because he's trying to help people get somewhere. I don't know where. So everyone understands it to a degree. But what's also equally felt is the understanding that one cannot complete this process of perfection with the faculties simply present within you. That's why he's going to help you get there, right? Like, that's the whole point. But there's no there. Where is the there? There's no there. So, and that's one of several problems with a naturalistic defense of moral transformation. Naturalism fails to provide a target at which one could even aim to determine if transformation is taking place. If you're on a football field and there's no goal line, how do you know when you score a touchdown? Like, this is just basic logic on that level. So since you don't have a goal, the only thing you're left with is moral pragmatism. Like, whatever we kind of handshake agreement agree to, co-sign as a moral law for either our good or for a society, for a government, whatever it is. But that's going to produce a constantly shifting goalpost, which we have seen literally over the entire history of humanity. Right? There was a time where slavery was legal, then it wasn't. So does it only become good when it's legal and not? Like, No, there's a law that superseded that law that we adjudicate the earthly laws by. And if you don't have a transcendent adjudicator, then it's always subject. That's the only other option. That's not my words. And I know he would push back and say, no, we can just rise above, or whatever he'll say. That's false. I don't care what anyone says. You can't do that. It never works. It can't work, because if it is left to us, it will always be subjective. Friedrich Nietzsche in the Parable of Madman, famously, we all noted that. And he himself was an atheist and died as a madman himself when he realized that deleting God from the equation leaves us one option, one option, that there will be no more things such as morality, period. And there definitely won't be such a thing as moral transformation. So when Kevin or anyone says things like channel yourself, based on what I know of myself, I'll say, and what I've seen in the entire history of humanity, what's in me is not all good. It doesn't mean I'm a horrible person, but if it's not perfect, then why would I trust myself to channel myself to be better than myself? You see what I'm saying? Like there's no way forward. He says you will change the world. Once again, into what? What's the goal? What's the end game? If does everyone have that ability, or do we want to live in a version? Do we want to even live in everyone's version of what that world might be? Whatever they want to change it into, do I want that world? And if not, then who gets to say whose world we live in? This is the problem, and this is only one aspect of one part of what is contained in the Christian worldview or in God's design. And just in looking at moral transformation, we haven't even begun to discuss purpose and meaning and design and marriage and philosophy and education and theology. Like those things also don't have a way forward, because there's no objective reference point by which we can adjudicate if we're getting closer or further from the goal. So I'm gonna pause there. And
that was bars right there.
All right, hey, well, if y'all are done, man, I guess we head on out. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just
grand opening, grand closing.
Just killed the whole video. No, I mean, to your point, though, I mean, you're absolutely right. So, thinking in practical terms, if you have, let's say that he starts this ministry, right? And let's say he's got 50 members. And, according to Kevin Wesley, then, the purpose of all this is to be the highest you, to be the highest version of yourself, or whatever that may be. Now, let's say that one of those members, let's say that member's name is Alex, and he decides that his highest self is to imitate the life of Mother Teresa, you know what I'm saying, or Ida B. Wells, you know what I'm saying, who fought against oppression, fought against lynching. He wants to be the next Ida B. Wells. That's great. And then let's say that the person across the aisle from him, let's say his name is Alfredo, says that he wants to be the greatest Bull Connor that ever lived. You know what I'm saying? He wants to oppress black people and get other people out of here, get these people out of here. So if these are two members of Kevin Wesley's congregation, according to this overarching principle that the ultimate goal is to be the greatest you, I mean, if you don't have God in the picture by which you can have some sort of objective moral law to adjudicate between the two different aspirations of the Bull Connor or the next, Ida B. Wells, then, I guess, as I don't know if he's going to call himself Minister Kevin or whatever, he's going to have to nurture both of these members to be, one's going to be Bull Connor, the other one's going to be Ida B. You know what I mean? That's crazy. That's crazy. You know what I'm saying?
That's not going to happen because they got to subscribe to his matrix.
Well, now that's where I'm going with it. Now, if anybody objects, if Kevin Wesley says to you, Bull Connor, like, nah, man, that's not what we're about. Well, it is what you're about, because you said that I'm supposed to be the greatest me, and you can't tell me who's me, because now if you try to tell me who I'm supposed to be, then you're imposing upon me your matrix, right? So you can't really say anything about what I aspire to do. I can aspire to be the greatest bank robber of all time. You can't say nothing about it, right? Mm. This is what happens when you have like these, nice sayings, just bring change. It's all vague and positive sounding, but it doesn't have a root system in ontological reality. It doesn't have a root system in truth. He's trying to give you purpose, meaning, and, the best you ever, but none of these things have a root system in truth. He's giving you a bunch of subjectivity. And in the absence of truth, everything else that he's talking about loses steam. It's just hot air. It's just hot air.
Right. So So again, he said, you would change the world. Life is not about outreach. It's about inreach. Okay. So we're calling it the Rise Inreach Center. Now, the world needs to be very grateful that the church didn't focus inwardly only.
Yeah, facts.
Interesting.
The world needs to be very grateful, because let's look at some of the outcomes of the church being outwardly focused. Let's see what was invented and innovated by the outreach.
Real quick, BK,
Yes,
while I'm thinking about it,
Yes,
and I told you this so much. We're only at 39 seconds.
That's it. That's it.
No, that's not what I was going to say. But
we're going to be here for 5 hours. 8-minute video.
Man. It's so much.
Wait, so here's what I didn't even see this until you just put it on the screen like that. His whole thing is about like rise above, like channel yourself to change the world, right? Because it's not about outreach. So is the world in me? Because if I'm changing the world, isn't that outreach? Like even in a simple statement,
that's a good point.
It's contradictory. He has this line. He'll probably say at the end of the video, no flame loses its flame by lighting another, right? That's his little tagline. Okay, so I'm supposed to light another, but the other is not in me. And once I hit an other, that's the world.
Got him.
And I'm reaching out to another to light their
outreaching
flame.
to another flame, right?
Right.
So you don't even keep that same energy in his own statements, and people just gloss over this stuff like, oh, he's so deep. No, that sentence on the screen right now makes no sense.
It totally contradicts his whole tagline. So he's got to drop one of them. I mean, I will say this too. Well, actually, no, I'm sorry. I know I'm afraid you was going to go first.
So let's look at the consequences of the church's outreach. All right. I've said this before, but it's worth repeating. This is from How Christianity Changed the World by Alvin J. Schmidt. Right. It says, before the legalization of Christianity in 313, orphans were reared in family homes. After 313, Christians also cared for many child orphans, right? In orphanthropia. Infant orphans or newborn foundlings were nurtured and cared for as well. It says both of these institutions marked the formal beginning of orphanages, later to become, especially in the West, in the time of the brephotropia, were absorbed by the orphanotropia, institutional structures that took parentless children from infancy on up. In some instances, and the exceptionally poor children were separately cared for in, well, I'm just going to say institutions. By the middle and later part of the 4th century, St. Basil of Caesarea and St. Chrysostom of Constantinople urged the construction of orphantrophia. They were commonly built in the shadow of cathedrals, sometimes along with other hospices. In the homilies of St. John Chrysostom, says Christopher Dawson, speaking on early Christianity, writes, every church had a matriculum or a list of persons in receipt of relief, and enormous sums were spent in every kind of charitable work. Right? In the story of civilization, Caesar and Christ, who wrote Durant, says it was this callous, compassionless culture that the Christians entered. Unlike the pagans, they showed compassion and caring for the weak, the sick, the downtrodden, and the dying, often risking their own lives in the process. One historian writes that the Christians, quote, in the midst of manifold and malignant pestilences, did not hesitate to devote their services and to offer their lives to the sick. There are people today in this chat who would not exist unless their ancestors was treated and brought back to health by a believer. These are facts. Some of us would not exist. Some of our family lines would have discontinued if these Christians didn't have outreach. Okay? And among other things, I'm not going to do all the Greek, but it says here, the Christians created cared for widows, church lists for needy persons, common treasures to aid the needy, voluntary associations to aid the unfortunate, godparents at baptism, the orphanage, monasteries used for housing many orphans, mental asylums, the institutions that serve only the sick, buildings that house strangers, travelers, and the sick, institutions for the poor, institutions for the aged, institutions for the blind. All right. So the world needs to be in gratitude that the church was not selfish.
Yeah.
This is the consequence of the church led by the Holy Spirit outreaching. Because you would not want to live in the world today if all these things didn't exist.
Facts.
So you want outreach. You definitely want the church to outreach. That's what I wanted to share. So.
Well, let me say this too, man, because I think that when we take a look at churches, because actually, even in addition to what you said, we could add in, the modern university,
right?
I'm saying
Yep.
modern universities, education, correct?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if you look at the so-called Middle Ages, I mean, there's no question that document after document from the antiquity was preserved in the monasteries, and it's the reason why we have them extant today, and it's a place of higher learning and so forth. But that being said, I think that so many times when people are wrestling with moral issues, church history, so on and so forth, they want to focus on the negative side of the church, right? They don't want to talk about everything that you just named about how it is the case that the hospitals, modern hospitals, like that notion flows from church history as well. Now, the fact of the matter is this, if we're not being lazy, then if we want to look at church history and look at both the good and the bad, then what somebody would want to do is assess, which behaviors of those who profess to be Christians or institutions that claim to be affiliated with Christianity coincided with, the teachings of Jesus and the Bible more broadly. You know what I'm saying? Because what you have is, if somebody is acting out of step with Orthodox Christianity and doing bad things and professing to be the Christian, that's not a reflection of Christianity. That's a reflection of that person's own depravity. I would suggest to you that when it comes to hospitals and everything that you just named, taking care of orphans and so forth, you can find that right out of Matthew chapter 25. You know what I'm saying? That when he talks about visiting the widows and so on and so forth, that's that ethic coming to life in the church, and so you can trace those things back to the teaching of Jesus. Whereas when it comes to things like chattel slavery and other stuff that people want to pin on the church, or pin on Christianity rather, due to the poor behavior of those who profess to be Christians, I'm going to show you every time how those things don't coincide with what Jesus taught, or more broadly what the Bible teaches as well. You know what I'm saying? We can go bit by bit on that, and I'll show you every time how it doesn't line up. But people don't want to do the work. They don't want to do the hard work of saying, okay, I'm not just going to lay this charge of the church. I'm going to be intellectually honest, as I criticize Christianity, and you go from the XYZ behavior that I don't like to what I believe that the Bible teaches. Like, most people don't want to take the effort to do that. But when you do so, then you find that these moral arguments from, the church to, Christianity fail time and time again. Whereas the kinds of things that you mapped out, you find those certainly flowing from Orthodox biblical teaching.
Yeah.
Hey, man, it's a strong 39 seconds, man. We've been we're 39 seconds in the video. And
we might not even have to watch no more, man. It just goes on.
I mean, there's a couple things he said, but I feel
Yeah, no, we can. After about the first half, he just keeps asking for money. But anyway,
yeah, right.
Oh, on a separate note, I find it ironic, y'all, that we were talking in the backstage. So this man left the church, right? And a lot of people who have left the church after him, they bang on the church for taking the money. The pastor's taking all the money. But now you're starting a ministry and you start your ministry by asking for 50 racks. Like, come on, like, who sees the irony here? And I'm not even saying all churches, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not even saying all churches are greedy and all that. Like, but just the irony of the situation, it's not lost on me. So yeah, I think that the list you gave, BK, is awesome, and it's not even exhaustive. It's not even close to exhaustive.
Not even close.
We didn't talk about science itself, the whole enterprise,
right? Education, right?
The enterprise of
women's
and not just
rights.
Like women's rights. Not just when I say science, that's too general, but like all of science, all of these sciences.
Right.
And in their own words, they'll tell you, these particular science, Kepler and Newton and all these other ones, that they felt that they were able to do science because they expected the universe to be orderly, because they knew somebody had ordered it. Like that fact alone, by people much smarter than myself or Mr. Wesley, that should tell us something. That should at least give us pause. But here's the fundamental reality with him, with whoever follows him, and with any of this other stuff. There's one synopsis, and it's biblically based too. They want to be a god unto themselves. He wants to be a god unto himself and create other little gods under him. That's it. That's it in a nutshell. It's that as long as the Bible's true, or if the Bible's true, if God exists, I have to submit to him or risk the consequence. But if I can pretend like he doesn't exist, or the Bible's not true, or it's flawed, then I no longer have to submit, and then I can just do me. I can go get 2 wives. It's funny how that always follows when you walk away from God, right? I was saying at the conference this weekend, usually when somebody says, I've been thinking this isn't true, I've been thinking Christianity's not right. Usually when they say I've been thinking, it means I've been sinning. And that means now I got to find a way to justify my sin, because that's easier than repenting. So to justify it, I just got to figure out how to prove these Christians wrong, start my own ministry to combat their ministry. And I gotta prove God doesn't exist, even if I jack up all of the philosophy and all of the terms and the philosophical arguments I put forth against China when we did that one. Like, this is the lengths that humanity will go to, and that proves the other point I made at the beginning, that why would you challenge yourself when there's evil in you? And he won't say it is, but it is. You're doing everything in your power, even avoiding logic and a dictionary, just to do what you want to do. That's evil. That's sin. And you're proving the point.
You gotta give it up, bro. Come on, dog. It's not working, my dude.
All right, so let's continue.
Go a bit further here. All right, cool.
Ministry, and we can do this like this. We are made of magic. If we want to see this thing, family.
Wait. Hold up. We can do this like this. We are made of magic, y'all.
I only had one response to that. No, we're not.
Listen, let's go back to his arch nemesis, Miriam Webster. The use of means such as charms or spells believed to have supernatural power over natural forces, or an extraordinary power or influence seemingly from a supernatural source. Why is this man talking about magic? I don't understand. So we have souls and we're magic. But there is no God, there's no angels, there's no supernatural realm, but you're made of magic, family. What?
But it sounds great, though, doesn't it? It sounds flashy. It sounds
fantastic.
You know what I'm saying? It sounds fantastic. We're made of magic. I mean, and here's the thing about it. Now, actually, so Alex, obviously you were there this weekend. I talked about the Imago Dei, the image of God, right? And the fact of the matter is, God has given us certain capacities to be able to do things. Like he's given us abilities. We have cognitive faculties. We have the abilities to be social. We have, emotions. Like we have all these different characteristics and abilities and capacities that allow us to function in the world. And we indeed do have a capacity such that we can accomplish great things. You know what I'm saying? We have a mind, in here that can comprehend just a vast amount of information about the world around us. I mean, that's fantastic. Now, here's the thing. Excuse me. With the biblical worldview, God is not trying to strip those things away. He endowed us with those capacities to do great things. We're supposed to reign with him and harness this world in such a way that it reflects his nature and his will for creation. We can do great things, from medicines to whatever else. That being said, the problem comes in is when you try to use those capacities apart from God, i.e. the Tower of Babel. You know what I'm saying? Like with the Tower of Babel, the problem wasn't the fact that they came together and built something. The problem is that they tried to come together and build something that was apart from, God, his will, and so on and so forth, right? That's what essentially it's like the same thing here. It's like this kind of Tower of Babel spirit. We can do this, we can do that. That's great. You're absolutely right. And on the biblical worldview, it gives you a place or a framework rather, within which you can use these capacities in a healthy way. I'm saying for an ultimate purpose, an ultimate meaning, as opposed to just flippantly using your capacities for whatever and having this incoherent worldview to where whatever you use those capacities for, it's just you being your higher self, whether that clashes with somebody else's higher self or not, and you get this chaos of higher selves, all using their abilities. And essentially, quite frankly, I think if you carry that out to its logical conclusion, power becomes, the arbiter of what's good or what wins out of, if you will. I think you end up with a power ethic rather than a love ethic, as you would find in Christianity.
Alex, you want to comment on something before?
Yeah, somebody had put a comment that is good. I wanted to touch on it. What Adam said is so true, though. That's the problem when we remove and look. We don't have to. This is not me or you or BK or Adam. This is not us just trying to stick up for Christianity. If you just read a history book, forget the Bible, it'll tell you this is what humans have done for the whole time of our time on Earth. That when I said this, that when like Adam did a great presentation on identity and on like who we truly are and where identity is rooted in. But there's one thing, and I say there's one thing noticeably absent from we call it the original mandate that God gave to man in Genesis 1:26-28. He said, have dominion over fish. Like he goes on the list. The only thing not on that list is other people. Only God is to dominate other people, have dominion over us. And yeah, that one. So when we do that, when humans have tried to dominate other humans, in fact, I can trace almost every issue in the world back to humans trying to dominate other humans or human trying to dominate another human. That power dynamic that Adam spoke to is always going to be where it lands when we don't have an objective moral law or when we choose to ignore it. Now, this is funny, finding truth. I like it. I like your comment. That's why I wanted to come back to it, because that was the other thing I thought of when I heard, not that he solved it, but when I heard him make that statement. The simple answer is no, bro. We're not magic. Like you couldn't even say the word we're magic if we were. Anyway, I know physicists and biochemists and doctors and chemists and biologists. We are complex, like carbon-based, sentient life forms, humans with consciousness, as Adam was talking about. That we know what we are, except for the soul that you alluded to in the beginning that you didn't define. But other than that, the fleshly part, the makeup, even in that you could see God. The way the systems work together in the body and stuff works together that we can't even begin to fathom, even though we know how it works most of the time. The other part is I did this brief part on DNA this weekend. DNA is inexplicable outside of a theistic paradigm, in my and many others' opinions, even some atheists. The origin of DNA. So when he's talking about abiogenesis, James Tour, I love his work. He does so much great work on this. And he's got, I don't know how many patents to his name, because he's discovered, and he's a passionate Christian and scientist of present day. We can't even go past the cell. So literally the smallest component that makes up life, or we'll say DNA, but DNA up to the cell itself is what's called irreducibly complex, which means that you can't break it down to its basic parts and it still exists. Now, here's what's interesting. I don't have the quote here, but Charles Darwin, in The Origin of Species, it's like page 60 something, 70 something, I can't remember. He said this, the father of macroevolutionary theory said, if it could ever be shown that a set of systems or basically something that we discover cannot be derived from successive evolutions of itself, basically, then my theory would absolutely break down. That's what he said. Now, we can't blame him. He didn't have the technology at that time, but we have it now. And so people nowadays, we have these scientists that keep sticking up for this, have no excuse because you know better. But they're just the smarter version of Kevin Wesley, because you have the actual scientific knowledge and you're ignoring your prophet's words, that he's like, if you find XYZ, stop believing me. Well, we found XYZ and y'all still believe it. Like literally the cell itself is so complex when you look at it under a microscope that they've tried to reproduce one or create one from scratch in a lab and they can't do it. Like with all the intelligent minds that they have today, they can't do it. So we're supposed to believe that amino acids floating around in billions of light years of space just accidentally came together in the right format to form. Come on, man. Like, we're not magic. Now, what we should be is in awe of God, because what he did, and even in just looking at yourself and understanding how you're designed, it's not magic, but it's amazing. I feel like he's trying to create this awe in the wrong place. You're stealing this awe from God and trying to give it to individual people who don't even comprehend it, can't comprehend it. And it's not even true.
Let me say something that's very interesting, because I do think that, and it's not just in this view, but in others as well, it's almost like this idea that it's like the idea of glorifying God or esteeming God is mutually exclusive with having some sense of, human or personal dignity. Like you have to, it's like either or, right? And I think that that's false. I mean, obviously, you can certainly have a healthy account of your own dignity and worth, while at the same time esteeming somebody else. And even esteeming somebody else, higher than yourself. You can certainly have esteem of like some sort of other person that higher than yourself, and yet not, cast aside a healthy sense of yourself. You know what I mean? But it seems like they treat it as if you can't. It's either you glorify God or you glorify yourself. You know what I mean? And I think in the biblical worldview, what you find, I mean, the scripture says, obviously, don't think more highly of yourself than you ought to think. But it doesn't say you shouldn't think highly. It just says don't think more highly. And ultimately, we're saying that you have God who is rightfully, I mean, obviously, if you have an omnipotent, omniscient, morally perfect, personal, loving God, I mean, that's somebody that is rightly given esteem. It's someone who is holy. You're right to esteem someone like that. But nevertheless, within the biblical worldview, that being, the Most High God, Yahweh, just pours his love all over us. You know what I'm saying, and endows us with inherent value, right? So now you have this complementary relationship. I say non-conflicting accounts of both personal dignity and esteeming another, above yourself. It doesn't have to be a either or type of a game. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Right. I agree. If I say, man, BK, you did great, that doesn't mean I can't do something good too. Like right. You know what I mean? We all understand this intuitively. It's just they just have I feel like it's not even atheism anymore. It's anti-theism. It's that Dawkins Hitchens level. Like, I don't want there to be a God, which they've said.
All right. I feel like, and I'm gonna go in for a second here. I feel like the scripture that best describes him and his ilk is 2 Timothy 3, verse 5. Having the appearance of godliness, but denying its power. Avoid such people, right? Because that's the whole vibe, right? The kufi, the cool dashikis, right? The texturized beard, maybe you get a Heru lock, right?
Especially when you're invoking this kind of pseudo church vibe, because he says in the video, like, if anybody knows how to run a church, then let me know. If anybody knows how to run a church, hit me up, and so I'll be able to know how to do it. So, like, especially when you're kind of invoking this pseudo church type of thing. I mean, essentially, he's impersonating the church. Really, actually, that's what.
And that's exactly what I'm about to get into. So it's like, let's keep it all the way a stack, right? Let's put the Bible aside. Forget Jesus, God. Let's take it to the block real quick. Somebody, right? This dude hates you, hates everything about you, tells everybody around him that he hates everything about you, but he can't stop being around you, and he imitates everything you do. What do you call that individual? People in the chat? What do you call that person? That's a creep.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep it 100 with you. That's a creep. That's weirdo. That's weird that you hate me so much, but you want to emulate me so much at the same time. I have an issue with that. That's very hypocritical.
Right.
That's very like nah. Forget philosophy. Forget all that. Forget that. You're weird, bro.
It's weird, bro.
Weird.
Gazy.
You know what I mean? How's that cool in any place? But it's
Like
okay to do that with us? Nah. No.
Nah, that's whack, yo.
No, fam. No.
Now, truth be told, and this is like going way far afield. Shout out to my man Vader Hedgeman. We're doing like the series, like we're taking like looking at hip hop lyrics called Beyond the Bars, and we kind of draw apologetic insights from it. And we were talking about 50 Cent the other day. All right, now this is guy. For those who know the hip hop history, I mean, when you think about it, it's almost like Kevin Wesley kind of pulled a 50 Cent. Like, I don't know if cats recall.
Try to out Ja Rule.
Try to out Ja Rule. Because like when 50 Cent was bombing on Ja Rule for singing on hooks and like.
What about How to Rob?
Right. I mean, that was early 50 though. But if like in terms of like if you go back to Get Rich or Die Trying and like everything after that, like he really mastered the singing on hooks thing. You know what I'm saying? And that's really what he criticized Ja Rule for. So it's like Kevin Wesley's pulling a 50 Cent right now. He's been bombing on the church. And now he's, doing the same thing. He's trying to be Ja Rule now. You know what I'm saying?
But once again, we have an atheist who smuggles in our worldview to slap us in the face with it. Mm-hmm. And we need to call him out on that. It's like you can't run around and hate what we are and then be what we are at the same time. Mm-hmm. That's hypocrisy. Stay over on your side of town. Don't come over here. Don't come over here. You hate us so much. Get off the block, fam. Don't come here.
Right. I mean, all facts. I mean, and honestly, on the surface, I think it's you might attribute it to a lack of creativity. It's like, dag, like you heard that you hate the church so much, but you can't even develop something distinct and different. Like you still got to copy us at the end of the day. Number one. Number two, I think it also kind of speaks to there are just certain facts of the human experience. I'm saying we desire community. I'm saying we desire to. Like we're wired for community, and I think we're wired for communal worship one way or another. We're wired to. I'll put it this way: we're wired to share in the experience of serving and knowing God. I'm saying that we're wired for that, and I think you just can't get away from it. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that's kind of for the life of him. Like he finds himself in that position. It's just like gravity. There's certain things that's going to keep bringing you back to reality, and I think that this wiring for corporate. Like I say, experiencing God and I'll just put it that way. I think we're just all wired to do that. The problem is, going back to what we said before, is that if you have, like, say, a fact of reality or some fact of the human experience that's not undergirded by or grounded in truth, then ultimately you're offering people fool's gold. That's essentially what you're giving people. It's fool's gold. So when he goes to, I don't know if he's going to call it church. I don't know what he's going to call it. But when they, if and when they open up, if he's making truth claims, if you can't give some sort of evidence or arguments as to why those truth claims should be, are indeed true, then you find yourself again Sunday episode, or I don't know when they're going to meet, but I'll assume they'll meet on Sunday because they're imitating church. They just might meet on Sundays. Who knows? They might meet on Sundays. I don't know. So if that's what they're doing, then you're just gonna Sunday after Sunday, all you're doing is just engaging in corporate delusion. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think any worldview worth of salt can offer people a corporate delusion. You know what I'm saying? A collective delusion on a regular basis and be something that is worthwhile. You know what I mean?
Again, if you hate me, right? Theologically speaking, if you hate me, get from around me then.
You can hate me now.
You know what I mean? It's like you hate me and you hate my imaginary friend. So we're both crazy. Because I have an imaginary friend and you hate my imaginary friend. So we're both nuts. Right? Anyway.
Oh man.
That's why yeah. So let's watch the rest of this craziness.
Okay.
There's nothing for us to make it happen, okay? I do need you guys' help, though. I need people who own buildings. If you own a facility, please let me know. If you're willing to donate this facility, give me a deal. Donate the facility for a time being so we can go ahead and use the facility while we're raising the funds and already be in the building. If you're willing to do that, please inbox me. If you know someone who owns commercial properties, please inbox me. If you or you know someone else who has spent years or time in church and understand the inner workings of church, okay? The business side of church, all the things that you really need, okay? I had someone a long time ago write me a 501(c) and they did it incorrectly. I don't know how to do that. I'm sure I could learn, but I'm asking for someone else who specializes in that. I don't want to mess this up for us, okay? I'm very secure in what I do know, but what I don't know, I am definitely willing to get you guys to help me with it, okay? When I was a preacher, I was a preacher. I did not start my own ministry from the bottom, so I do not understand all of the details around the church. So if you guys worked inside the church and you know all that stuff, please inbox me, okay? So we can put our resources together. That means our money, our mind, and our bodies, our physical efforts into manifesting this facility, family. For those of you who would like to see this facility come into place and come into manifestation, if I have helped you at all in your life, if you know that your life is better because of me, if you was able to find and develop a better relationship with yourself through me, please donate, okay? Donate to this manifesting, okay? You can simply donate to Cash App, to our Cash App. It's $ Rise In Reach Center. Rise In Reach Center, not outreach. We're not trying to tell everybody else how to live. We're not trying to go out and fix everybody. We're trying to fix us. We are trying to rise to be our best. And I want you guys to understand what.
All right. We're not trying to go out and fix everybody. We're trying to fix us. You see, it's when he says stuff like this, it makes me once again question if he ever was a preacher. Like, do you really understand Christianity proper? Because none of us teaches this. None of us says that we can fix ourselves or anyone else. That's not Christianity proper. And if you could just humor me for a minute, because, right, Psalm 18, verse 17, he rescued me from my strong enemy and from those who hated me, for they were too mighty for me. Romans 7, 21 to 25. So I find it to be a law that when I want to do right, evil lies close at hand. For I delight in the law of God in my inner being. But I see in my members another law waging war against the law of my mind and making me captive to the law of sin that dwells in my members. Wretched man that I am, who will deliver me from this body of death? Thanks be to God through Jesus Christ our Lord. So then, I myself serve the law of God with my mind, but with my flesh I serve the law of sin. Ephesians 2 verse 8, for by grace you have been saved through faith, and this is not your own doing. It is the gift of God. Titus 3 verse 5, he saved us, not because of works done by us in righteousness, but according to his own mercy, by the washing of regeneration and renewal of the Holy Spirit. We are wretched and we are jacked up and we are in constant rebellion to God. We can't fix ourselves. That's why we needed, wait for it, a savior. I needed to be saved from myself because I couldn't fix myself. Because if I could, I wouldn't need someone to save me. So what is he talking about when he says, well, we're not here trying to fix us, fix other people. We can't fix other people. It's God through his spirit, through the gospel of Jesus that fixes people. It's not us. So again, I'm confused. Like, and you preached, you've taught the word of God. Like, I'm lost.
But you know what, man? I think it was, here's what it didn't occur to me. Well, actually, so I've been thinking about this for a while, but I hadn't seen it in this video till you said that. So I think one thing that's common, I've seen it in some of Kevin Wesley's other videos, and I've seen it in like maybe like a Brother Polite or whatever. I think people really take exception to those doctrines that pertain to the sinfulness of man, right? They take exception to the notion that in and of ourselves, we are unworthy, right? Because what they do is when they hear words like sinful, unworthy, and anything along those lines, they draw a direct line between the sinful condition that man is in and inherent value or dignity. And I think that's a mistaken inference. I'm saying, so here's what I mean by that. Dignity and value on the one hand is a distinct concept from the condition that, or that something is in, if you will, right? So here's the thing. For example, well, I'll just be explicit with it. So God has created human beings in his image, right? And he's conferred value on us. So just in and of ourselves, we are the kinds of things that are inherently valuable, right? Now, that's something that doesn't change, given that the source of our value derives from God himself, right? So, we didn't give ourselves value. Value is not just like from person to person, right? Ultimately, it derives from God. So that's like, so I'll just leave that as it is. Now, with that being said, when it comes to our sinful condition, even though it is the case that we might be, in a condition of sin, I'm saying, like, we're in a state of depravity, so on and so forth, like we really messed up. That doesn't negate the Imago Dei. It doesn't erase the Imago Dei, right? We're still made in God's image. We are still inherently the kinds of beings that bear dignity. It's just in our current state, right? We're in a position where we need to get cleaned up. It's just that simple. It's like finding an heirloom. Let's say if you find a gold watch, if you will, right? And buried in your backyard. You probably don't throw the gold watch away because it's still made of gold. You just clean it up, right? And so I think that what happens is, people like Kevin Wesley, they assume they want to shun, any doctrine related to, sin, sinfulness, so on and so forth, because they assume that it is inherent. It's like a mark against human dignity, but that's just a mistaken idea. That shows me that he just doesn't have a grasp of the biblical worldview. The fact of the matter is, for God's glory, he is the one that has rescued us from sin, translated us out of the kingdom of darkness into the kingdom of his dear son. And he's actually restored us back to, that's the part of the reconciliation. He's reconciling us back to our optimal state, the state that we were supposed to be in. I'm saying, like, our best, you know what I'm saying? The difference is Kevin is under the delusion that we can reach that state just in and of ourselves, just by ourselves. And I think that he's just, I'll just say from a theological standpoint, he's mistaken. I mean, the fact of the matter is the sin problem is something that can only be addressed by God, and it was addressed on the cross ultimately. But if you just take theology out of it for a second, if we look at the broad strokes of human history, mankind has had a lot of time to tighten up. And our history is looking real bleak. You know what I'm saying? I'm serious. Like, I mean, again, let's take Christianity off the table for a second. Let's just look at human behavior. Okay, this is something that Clay Jones talks about in his work. I might have it behind me now. I'll look for it. Oh, here it is, right here. Boom. Clay Jones has his book here. Why does God allow evil? And he cites sociologists and people who just examine human behavior with respect to some of the atrocities that we've seen just in the 20th century, whether it be Rwanda, whether it be the Holocaust, and so on and so forth. And he talks about how really it's not like the psychopath who goes about committing these atrocities, like the genocides and stuff like that. It's not like the person who's crazy and is out there who was pulling the lever at Auschwitz. As he describes it, it's the next door neighbor who you saw at the market the day before. That's the one that's going around chopping people's arms off. Like, we have this, to be honest, I'll just put it this way. And I know this goes against our Western, modern sensibilities, but we have this myth of goodness, like this inherent goodness. Like we just, at the bottom line, at the bottom, we're good people at the end of the day. No, actually, human history says otherwise. Human history and careful study of human behavior has shown that all of us have some real deep brokenness. I'm saying, like, that's just a fact of human behavior. It's like, people say, well, nobody's perfect. Yeah, exactly. I'm saying, like, you're saying nobody's perfect, right? We all have some moral flaw that we bear with us from day to day, and just some of us exhibit it from varying degrees. Now, here's the thing: if you have everybody in a situation where we're all dealing with these moral flaws, then it doesn't really make sense for us to look to one another as the answer. It doesn't make sense to us to look to ourselves as the answer, because we are indelibly flawed in that way. Fortunately, God has given us an answer. I'm saying Christ really has died on the cross and made it possible for you to enter into his kingdom and be sealed by the Holy Spirit, who now engages you in this process of sanctification, taking you from glory to glory, bringing you from the place where you are into a better you, which is, more Christ-like and more loving, and so on and so forth, so that you can ultimately reign with Christ for eternity. That's what we're destined toward. But if you take God out of the picture and just go with the Kevin Wesley model, ultimately you're going from one state, and I guess if you're going to bring about change, I mean, you can do that, but there's no ultimate good anyway, because you're dealing with a godless system. So you're just going from one change to another, and ultimately it's going to be meaningless, because at the end of the day, like I talked about this past weekend, the whole universe is headed toward what scientists call the heat death of the universe. So everything is going to be non-existent eventually anyway. So whatever change you make, it's not going to ultimately matter. So you have this meaningless search for meaning on the Kevin Wesley model that I think the biblical worldview gives a better framework by far.
Absolutely. And I like how you said a meaningless search for meaning, because it becomes semantically no. I'm gonna throw this book in there too with your vote, Evil and the Justice of God by N.T. Wright. And there's more, but I want to like mail these books to him. Maybe I don't know if he'll read it or not, but man, you said so many good things there. And I think I've used this example before. I do it usually live, but I don't know if I've ever done it on any channels. If we think about value, once again, forget the Bible for a second. Let's just think about how does anything get value in a real or ontological sense? So let's say you talk about hooping, right? So when I do hoop, I wear Kobe's. All right. It's not about him being my favorite player. I just like those shoes. If I go to the store and I say, man, these are hot. I want these. And I say, how much is it? They say it's $100. I'm like, hey, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good deal. If they say it's 1,000, like, I don't care how much I like the dude, it's not worth that much. We don't have a deal. When we have a deal is when the purchaser and the owner of the product make an agreement on the rate, on the value. So here's the point. Nothing gives value to itself. That's always true everywhere at all times. And therefore, it has to probably also be true about us. Even if we look at other things in nature, some people, like, they place a higher value on a tree. So some stuff can have value from a monetary sense, or some stuff can have sentimental value. But either way, it's been imputed with value. Guess what? The Bible tells us we have been imputed with righteousness. It's been credited to our account. We've been imputed with his image. He said, look at the coin, right? He said, whose image is on the coin? And a well-known apologist said, what the follow-up question should have been, well, whose image is on you? Because that's how you'll know your value. And that's the imago Dei that Adam's talking about. So the reality is this, even that money you got in your pocket, I don't care if you got a $5 bill, $100 bill, it's just a piece of paper until the government gives it value. Nothing gives value to itself, including us. So the idea of inherent human value is nonsense outside of a theistic framework, because only in a theistic framework is there an entity that can give us and transcend us in order to give us value. Otherwise, we don't have it, except to the degree that we make it up. Now, I guess we can make it up, but then we're going to go back to that power dynamic that Adam said, where now this regime can say, well, I think you Jews are less valuable. Based on what? Based on us. Based on what we say. It always, like, this is just basic history. Once again, I think all three of us at some point have said, like, forget the Bible for a second. And the fact that we can say that, it kind of points to the logic of this, or the illogic. You don't need to know the Bible to know the things we're saying on some of this. The reality is the conclusions that he's drawing are illogical based on history, philosophy, what else? Science. What other things have we crossed into? Like, just research, like they don't make sense in any realm, let alone theological, right? And so if nothing gives value to itself, then only we have value if we're given value by some entity outside of ourselves, but that entity would have to transcend us. Here's the other thing, and I was hearing this today. I was listening. I don't do this often. It's funny because somebody just put in that he's not a Calvinist. And I was listening to R.C. Sproul today, which is rare for me. I don't even know how it came up in my playlist, but but it was good. It was good. And he said something that made me think about this. And he was talking about the problem of evil, but one aspect of it is, if there is a primary or essential or necessary being that precedes everything else is contingent, right? So I know, Adam, you done work on the contingency argument. Like, everything that is contingent or dependent.
I was about to go there too. Yeah, it's good.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. On the primary entity is by definition less perfect than the primary entity. And I would say that primary entity is God. Even if I'm 1 degree less good, or 1 degree less perfect, or 1 degree more fallible, or whatever it is, that alone means I can't fully trust myself more than that initial entity.
You're not the source.
I'm not the source. And nothing can be its own source unless it's eternal. And only God's eternal. And if the universe, well, I'm not going to go into that. The universe has been proven that it can't be eternal for a lot of reasons. And I know he jacked that part up too, but I just want to say those things just to highlight, even if we didn't have scriptures, these things would be logically impossible. They would be axiomatically false. They can't follow. They don't, like, this AB does not connect to his C. He skipped like 10 letters and went to W, or 20 letters. I don't know. It doesn't follow from the we were talking about deductive arguments this weekend. Mm-hmm. The propositions that undergird his conclusion do not follow. They're not sound. They're not logical. And therefore the conclusion necessarily does not follow. That's not my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm glad you said it. Like, again, like, we're not trying to beat up on Kevin Wesley, or we're not trying to just ridicule him or like. I say it all the time. Like, you can't build a strong community on a foundation of weak ideas, right? So again, Christianity aside, we keep saying that, like, this really is about the question is, have the ideas that Kevin Wesley has put on the table, are these ideas that if you follow them through, they will lead towards, a robust life? You know what I'm saying? Will they lead towards truth? And the answer is no. We've shown several missteps. I mean, think about it again. I mean, just kind of look at it a different way. If you have him putting on the table that, okay, well, the problem is we've been accepting somebody else's matrix, right? Like, well, he says the solution is that we ought to just basically live out our best selves. Now, is that idea that he's put on the table, living out your best self, is that an adequate solution? Well, no, because guess what? Hitler thought the same thing. Hitler believed that in order for them to reach whatever they wanted to attain, they had to have the Aryan race reign supreme. They had to be the ultimate humans. You know what I'm saying? That was his whole idea. America, at its founding, believed that by providence, they had been established, like it was almost like New Jerusalem or something like that. And they believed that they had this manifest destiny to reign over a particular region of the earth and to exemplify whatever is liberty or whatever. That's what America was about. And at the same time, they had all these things that they claimed to be about. They were also enslaving Africans and pushing Native Americans off of their land, like in the effort to be the greatest self, their greatest selves, right? We could talk about so many different other regimes that come along and say that they want to fully be and attain whatever they want to be and attain. You know what I'm saying? That in and of itself, this idea of being your greatest self is not the solution for what he cites as being the problem of taking on somebody else's matrix. What I'm saying is this, is that whether it be some other person's human being's matrix or your own, I'm saying that neither one of them is sufficient in order to base a solid worldview on. What you're talking about are transcendent, moral, meaning, purpose-related ideas, and none of those things can be grounded without an objective basis, i.e. God, who is an adequate entity upon which you can build these other things, morality, purpose, meaning, and so forth. That's the problem. So if you take God out of the picture, everything that you're saying has been done, bro. The Nazis did it, believe it or not. You know what I'm saying? Idi Amin was about exactly what you're saying. You're not offering Jim Jones is about exactly what you're saying. That's what he was about. You're literally not doing anything different, right? So again, I mean, it's just about the ideas, man. Right. The ideas are false. Christianity aside, what you're saying doesn't follow, from it doesn't provide us with rational grounds to base a worldview.
Is there anything else we got to look at this video, or are we done with the videos? Anything else?
I don't know. I mean, he's about to hit him with that 50K. I don't know if we got to that. I mean,
let's get into that.
Oh, yeah. Cool. Right, cool.
CMB said they just need the thermometer.
Yes, we'll still want musicians because we are internally musicians. Yes, we sing. Yes, we're talented. But we're not going to get up there and sing someone else's songs. Life is about you creating and manifesting from within you. So I'm going to challenge you to create your own songs to get up.
So he's going to have a worship team?
Yep.
You said life.
That's what I'm saying. You see, that bothers me, bro. Like, get from around me. If you hate me so much, why you keep doing what we do? I don't understand. I'm really confused on that.
Why, bro?
I don't know.
He said life is about
creating how great I am as opposed to how great thou art. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? He's gonna have a song service in his minute. Like, I don't understand.
But here's the thing, though. Let me say this, though. I want to build a bridge here. I want to build a bridge. Okay. Now, on one level, I feel them in this sense. They follow me on this, right? This idea of us having like this ability to like create music. You know what I'm saying? Like we have the ability to do this. Yes, that's beautiful, right? I agree. We have abilities to do A, B, and C. When you talk about like being the best you, in principle, I agree. We should be the best that we can be. Like, there's no doubt about that. It's just that every time he makes a statement like that, it's untethered from any sort of truth and or reality. That's the problem.
That's a big problem.
That's the problem. Is that everything you're saying, like put it this way: there is space in the biblical worldview for what he just said. I believe that the ability to create music is a gift from God. I believe that the fact that we have the cognitive faculties and sensitivity of the ear to discern notes and things like that, and then have the ability to manipulate that into tunes and so on and so forth. And not only that, but given your cultural situation, that gifting may develop in different ways with different flavors. I think that's a beautiful thing. That's beautiful. Like God created mankind with a beautiful set of abilities and capacities. There's room in the biblical worldview for that. Like, we don't have to push that aside, and we don't have to like dumb it down either. You can be the illest artist ever. You know what I'm saying? I like good music.
Is he gonna have a deacon board too? Like, what's going?
Like,
I don't understand.
But let me just say this. Like, the problem is you don't have to get rid of God to do that. And everything that you're talking about is at its best when you have God in the picture. If you take God out of the picture, then you lose everything else in terms of being able to situate it rationally. All right. So yeah, you want to go a little further?
Yes, you
up and sing. Create your own dance. Create your own thing to find the truest version of you so you can truly be and find your true happiness, because you're never going to be happy long as you're playing the part of someone else. You are not an actor, and it's time to take the mask off and stop acting. You can only do that by realizing that you are only playing a role, family.
But you're going to be acting like it's church, though. Okay, I digress.
And many of us are under the spell and thinking that who we are acting out is who we are. And we are not who we are acting out. We're acting out who we believe that we are. Do you understand? And we have to unlearn that. Okay? And like churches, they teach every single Sunday because they're trying to get you to understand something. Well, to undo all of that damage and trauma that's been put on you, it's not going to be done in a day. So we're going to need a facility. And so this is what I want to say to you guys. I'm right now in Charlotte, so I'm going to go around in Charlotte and look for different buildings. If you have any buildings that's just outside of Charlotte that's worth the commute, I don't mind commuting as long as the resources are there. I don't mind moving to a different city. Okay, if a lot of you guys get together and you guys make this happen and you want it in your city, I don't mind moving to the city if the resources are available. Do you understand? But I live in Charlotte. This is right now where my home is. So I'm going to look in Charlotte, okay? You guys help me out, though, because I am willing to move if the resources are there, if it makes sense. Do you understand? All right? If you guys are willing to move here, please understand, I will be looking to hire people as soon as we get these resources, because I cannot do this on my own. I will need you guys' help, okay? So again, family, donate to Cash App, Rise in Reach Center, or simply go to www.betheevolution.org and click the donate tab. This is how you donate. Also on www.betheevolution.org, you can get your Rise shirt, which is our movement shirt. We are now creating more movement products, more Rise products, so you guys can buy the Rise products. And this product that you see right here, okay, family, the money that you guys are spending on this goes to the Rise Center, okay? And I'm not trying to sit around long doing this. As soon as we reach our goal of 50 grand, we're starting this building. I'm going to go somewhere.
Hold on, let me play one more snippet.
And lease something, even if it's not that large, okay? Because as long as the local people can come and fill it up and we can do our in-reach there, I'll broadcast the teachings to the rest of the world.
So Kevin Wesley, man, I think he's a crafty guy, man. I'm gonna tell you what, I think like that statement right there, like we're not gonna take super long. As soon as we have 50 grand, we're gonna get a spot. I think he sat back and he's observed the debacle that's gone on with Umar Johnson building a school for 50 years. Like, he knows, like, he's got the pulse of the conscious community in the sense that, Cass is not rocking with Umar on that. I mean, a lot of people still are. But I think what he's doing is he's, on the one hand, he sees what's happening with Umar Johnson. I think he's very aware of what's going. Well, I know he's very aware of what's going on with Brother Blight, and I think he's trying to step into that space and fill that gap. I think that's kind of what we're seeing. And then on top of that too, if you have a building, I think it based upon what he has now, which is kind of like primarily internet based. If he's got a 501c3 with a building, I would imagine he's probably going to be able to write a whole lot off on his taxes that he isn't able to do now. So there's like that incentive as well. So between trying to fill this vacuum where, Umar Johnson has, pretty much shaded himself out of popularity, at least in terms of where he was. And then, with those tax breaks, I think that's kind of what we're seeing from Kevin Wesley, man. And I mean, it's kind of hard not to see him going for that bag, but
JP said, "Come on down to the House of Cards, in reach center of magical selfishness."
Man.
Well, here's the thing with the 501c. He's gonna have to classify it as a religious.
Let me say this. Like he said, as far as in reach, he's reaching in, or he's reaching in them pockets. That's what he's reaching. It's in reaching in pockets. That's what it is. He's trying to get that 50K, bro.
In reach.
And the 501c3, like I have one. I think you have one too, Adam. You got to classify it as something. You can't just start one. It's going to be a religious organization, right? Like BK said, this sounds too close to home. This is like literally what I'm doing and did. I started 501c3. Now I haven't been so bold to come out and just ask for 50K. Maybe I need to do that too. I could use the 50K because I actually trying to hire some people too.
Kufi and Dashiki fan.
But I mean, I don't know. I just don't do my fundraising that way. But what is it gonna be? What is he gonna be training there? What is it like? I don't think in this age of internet, there's any more he could do with a building than he's already doing with the internet. And you can reach more globally with the internet. So I don't really even understand the need for the building, but I guess you need to have the worship team in there, and you got to have the ushers and everything. It doesn't even add up on that level. There's some. Oh man, I don't even know. So he's conflated a couple epistemological and ontological things. Just like I don't know if we want to go back to the clip. We don't have to go back, but he said something about something that is, as far as your nature, as far as what's in you, but the way he knows that is still up in the air. Like the epistemological access to that reality, if it is one, he'd have to be God to know it. Do you see what I'm saying? To know what's in you, and you got this magic in you, and like you're making claims that are tangible that people can try and attach to, and that's what's going to get him that money. But when they get there and they realize that there's no foundation upon which this house stands, it's going to collect. That's what's going to connect him or make him into the Umar, because we know it can't stand. We know it can't stand because it's not built on anything. I just pray that all these people don't give this man all their money before they realize that.
Yo, this cat trying to, man, I'm telling you, they get on these preachers all day long, man. Yo, Kevin Wesley done collected more tithes and offerings than anybody I know in the ministry, dog. Come on, man.
Bro,
I mean, it's just like, come on, bro. I mean, listen, here's the thing. I'm all for having, I have a 501c3. I don't have a problem with people raising money for a cause. I get that. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, though, I'm more so just looking at like, what is that cause? Like not all causes are, are legit, man. You know what I'm saying? And the fact of the matter is, listen, again, I'm not trying to sound like a broken record, but like, Christianity aside, man, like the Black community, man, we don't have a lot of margin for error when it comes to thinking critically. Like we're in a really tough spot as a community. Then we really don't have a lot of margin for error in terms of entertaining bad ideas. And if you just watch Kevin Wesley's videos, and this is not personal, man. It's just that he's consistently saying things that are completely illogical. You know what I'm saying? He's consistently saying things that are completely indefensible and reflect poor thinking. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like, it's not about whether I agree or disagree with him. I'm just saying in terms of like how you get to your conclusions, you know what I'm saying? And just his hatchet job on the English language and just disregarding the definition and stuff like that, man, I'm telling you, like we can't do that, fam. Like, as a community, we can't afford to do that. I'm saying 50K aside, we can't afford to have.
We literally can't afford it.
We literally can't afford it. We can't afford it. Man.
Listen. Out of all the videos I've seen of this individual, this one, for me, is the most egregious because of the brazen hypocrisy. You say I'm wrong. You say what I believe in is non-existent, and it's horrible. And then you turn around and do the same thing I'm doing.
Facts.
I got a real problem with that. Like, who are you, fam?
Right.
It's like, don't get from around me. If you hate what I am and what I do, go to the other side of town and do something different.
Right.
Don't critique and point fingers and badmouth Christianity, but then you want music and a building and it's a ministry and for all my beautiful souls, and we're magic, and I'm like, how, really? Like, listen.
There's a series of assumptions too that's undergirding all of this that it's so embedded that we didn't even really talk about it because there was so much other stuff to talk about. But there are 2.7 billion Christians on the planet and growing. It's still the largest religion on the planet. 2.7 billion of us are not so disgruntled and hurt by Christianity that we're looking for anything else. The assumption is, let me rescue you from this thing that you got yourself in or that you don't want to be in. But that's not the testimony of the vast majority of Christians. That is a very, very small minority of, typically unlearned Christians and unlearned theologically and just, as far as book reading, not from being unintelligent, but just haven't studied the depth, like reading different books like the one Adam brought out, when I brought out, to see, like, when I do have a question about my faith, let me go try to get an answer. Let me try to get clarity rather than deconstruct wrongly. Because I know Pastor Mason's doing a great series on deconstructing your faith.
Oh, yeah.
But you deconstruct to reconstruct. If I knew how, I could take my car engine apart and look at all the parts and be like, man, so like this connect to this and that, like this is amazing how this all works together, and then put it back the right way so I can drive the car. But what good is me deconstructing it and leaving all the parts laying on the pavement and I can't drive my car no more?
Mm-hmm.
If there's a point to deconstructing, is to see the individual components so that you can be in awe of the total component. It's not just to break it all apart for no reason. And so the very small minority of people who are doing deconstruction wrong is a very small minority of the total 2.3 or 7 billion Christians on the planet. So he's assuming something that just doesn't bear out in the numbers. It doesn't bear out in reality. Sure. Once again, he's like Adam said, he's not tethered to reality. That's not a big deal for him.
But you know what, to your point though, Alex, so when we think about here in the West though, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you do have a number of people that would agree with Kevin Wesley. I think it's very interesting, kind of joining his point with yours, is that in many ways, what he's espousing, I think is a luxury worldview. It's a worldview of luxury. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you're not really like, boots on the ground, like China, Africa, like dealing with real suffering like that, when you're enjoying some relative comfort, then you can entertain some of these ideas, not really worry about whether the truth claims really add up and all that kind of stuff. I mean, you can entertain all of those things, but when you're like, for example, our African enslaved ancestors, you know what I'm saying, and having to fight vicious, white supremacy and so on, like you need a worldview that's attached to reality. Like, you don't have the luxury of just kind of philosophizing about stuff and sounding good on the surface, but not having roots. Like, you need roots. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so, to your point, I think that the where Christianity is flourishing, it's these are people who are latching on to something with roots. Like, they don't have time for Kevin Wesleyism. You know what I'm saying? They need something that's they can sink their teeth into, and it is again tied to reality. But Kevin Wesley is just kind of, you can think those kind of things when you're comfortable. You know what I'm saying, but it doesn't really when the rubber meets the road. It just doesn't stand up. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
We don't see it. Do we need to see the rest of this thing? We're done.
Well, I
Anything
think
else?
that's pretty much. Yeah, I think we covered
Yeah.
everything, man. You know, yeah.
Can you go all the way to the end? I just want to see his little
Yeah.
taglines.
Oh
here's
yeah.
one.
That's going to be
Yeah.
fine. Okay. I would like a larger place because I'm pretty sure a lot of people are going
course
to
he
come.
would.
But if the
Of course he
resources
would.
are there and the building's there, that's what we'll do.
He gonna start off building a
But I
mega
want you
church.
guys to understand, I'm not going to be sitting here waiting for millions of dollars to buy the biggest building so we can go into it looking like we've made it already.
fast
It's
forward?
not about the
Adam, can you
building.
fast forward a little bit?
It's about the building,
Oh, okay.
the unity. Do you understand? And it's happened. I don't want you to look at it and say, well, I don't have any money. Well, opportunity. You keep saying you want it. You keep expressing how needed it is. Well, here's the opportunity, family. Do you understand? Let's do this. Let's see how fast we can manifest it, family. 50 grand. Let's see how fast we can manifest 50 grand. And the moment we get that 50 grand, it is on. The moment we get a building donated, even without the 50 grand, it is on. Do you understand? Let's do this, family. I love you all, and I can't wait to see the results of this. Let's make it happen. Be evolution. Be the change that you want to see. Did you hear that? Be the change that you want to see. No candle loses its flame from lighting another. First, you must have the flame. No candle loses its flame from lighting another, but first you must have the flame, right? And if you were to ever find yourself in the middle of chaos, it's in the chaos that you find yourself. Are we not in chaos? Is it not time that we find ourselves? Because it's only when we do that, family, that we can rise. All right? I look forward to seeing you guys soon. Peace.
So I just wanted to hear his 2 or 3 slogans at the end. I'll deal with the flame one. So he said no candle loses a flame from lighting another. If you go to his page, you put your titles of who you are and stuff. One of them says spiritual advisor. Now, so you're a spiritual advisor. I'm still not quite sure. Is he atheist or some kind of mix up of Eastern spirituality? But he has sounded atheist in other places. So I don't know. But then at the beginning of this video, he's talking about a soul. And in another video, he's talking about praying to the universe. Like, it's all over the place. And all of those things are mutually exclusive. So even without Christianity, he's excluding himself. He said, no candle loses a flame by lighting another. That's a beautiful sentiment. However, it's a category mistake. Elsewhere, I meant to say this earlier. You put something up, BK. He's guilty of begging the question. For those that may not know, these are all philosophical fallacies. The nature of fire allows it to be self-refreshing or refurbishing as long as there's enough oxygen in the room or in the environment, right? If I have $100 and you need $100, or he does, I can give it to you. But now my pockets will not automatically regenerate $100. Right. Like, that's just not how that works. So if he's saying we should help one another, no problem. Cool. Christianity affirms that. We have no problem with that. In fact, the Bible says it everywhere. But the idea that we have unlimited giving potential akin to a flame is a category mistake. It's misleading and it's false. And it's just it's so catchy that I don't think anybody ever thinks about it. Or maybe some people do. Maybe some other people are thinking exactly what we're thinking, and I hope they are. But you can't. Some analogies don't work. They don't work in reality, and they don't even work in practicality. So we have to think these things through. Ideas matter, like we've been saying all night. Do I believe in helping people? Absolutely. I'm about to give some more, money to other organizations. Like, I believe in that. But that does not mean that there are principles that do not undergird my understanding of why that's even worth doing, including the Imago Dei, including the understanding of value, including the fact that I'm content. Like, all of those things lead to the conclusion that Christianity and the Bible are coherent. Therefore, that they are worth obeying. There's a step-by-step to this, but he skipped like 15 steps and jumped to a conclusion that doesn't even make sense based on his own steps. That's a problem.
And again, right?
Yeah.
Using the whole candle flame thing, what's the initial ignition of the flame?
Yeah, he said you have to have it first, right? How do I get it?
Right?
Well, you made the magic, but I mean,
there you go.
So then too, he said before that, he said that be the change that you want to see, right? Well, I think he's presupposing that the change that I want to see is of some positive sort. What if I want to be the change of the next I don't know, Hitler or something like that? You know what I mean? If that's the case, if somebody wants to be that sort of a change, then unless he's going to impose his matrix on them and say that they're wrong, then he's going to have to be like, all right, well, cool. That's what you want to be. Then that's what you want to be, that change, brother. He's going to have to do that. You know what I'm saying? So again, here's the thing, like a coherent worldview is going to be able to take different pieces and knit them together well. Like, justice should not be independent of love, and purpose should not be independent of meaning and morality. All these things should be knit together. But we just kind of throwing around buzzwords and positive signs and stuff like that without tethering them together in any sort of coherent picture. It sounds real good.
By the way, he stole that from Gandhi, just for reference.
Oh, okay, cool. I didn't know that. Yeah.
To be the change that you want to see, Gandhi said that. He ain't give him credit yet, but anyway, go ahead.
He ended with the Quentin Miller joint. You got the ghostwriter. But no, I'm just saying, man. Once again, I mean, it's pretty much the same theme throughout the whole thing, man. It's just that it sounds really great, sounds really positive and generic and vague. But when it gets to if you really want to start digging into his worldview and ask, do all these claims and all the things that he's aspired, I guess trying to promote, all these truth claims that he's made, has his worldview attempted to cash a check, that it has the resources for? The answer is no. Like, he's written worldview checks that his worldview can't cash time and time again.
I like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it really the audaciousness of, you left the church, you're no longer a pastor, you don't believe in the God of the Bible, you don't believe in the Bible, but yet you're gonna actually start a ministry and emulate. You literally ask people, show me the business side of the church, because that's what I want. Give me musicians. You want the church.
You want to function like the church. You want the resources of the church, God. You want the structure.
You want the appearance of godliness, but you are denying its power. You don't like me? Get from around me.
Right.
I keep it. I mean, I don't know how much more simple I can make it. It's like,
that's simple.
You're being weird, bro. Like, stop.
It's wild, man. Yeah.
But anyway, guys.
False flagging.
What? All day. But so yeah, guys. That's our commentary on the beginning of his ministry. I guess we will be watching, see how it progresses, and hopefully it does not. And yeah. So any last words you guys have about what we did today?
Sorry, I was reading the comments. My bad.
No, actually, funny enough. So I mean, it's just interesting. He's borrowing from the worldview. He's even borrowing lingo. I mean, like, as far as manifest this, manifest that. I mean, that's that prosperity gospel lingo. You know what I'm saying?
I'm surprised you didn't say sow a seed. Like, I'm waiting for him to say that.
Right. I see several people have mentioned that in the chat, and I think that's right. It'd be interesting to go back. I hadn't thought about it till just now. So I see them mentioned in the chat. But Cass is on it, man. Like, I think that's right. He's stealing bars once again. You know what I'm saying? It's that in reach. Reaching in them pockets, dog. That's what it is, bro. But nah, man. I mean, it's just we just gotta. It's not about Kevin Weston. This is what we do. We look at, I want people to be aware of things like this in our community so they can think critically about it. Matter of fact, actually, I got another video that where he called me out specifically from a snippet that I had with Jabari. And y'all know I've been doing like a lot of speaking engagement stuff, so I just haven't had a chance to get around to it. But as of within the next couple of weeks, I'm gonna get back to take a look at that, and I'm gonna go ahead and craft a nice little response, because he raised some issues that I think will make for some good discussion. So that should be coming pretty soon.
Cool. Alex, final thoughts?
I just want people to think critically. I was at a meeting today with some pastors, and well, partially talking about the need for apologetics, and they were on board with it, so that part wasn't the issue. But I think back, Adam, you remember the event we did this weekend? 12-year-old girl.
Adrian Jones, he said, "Well, a man, bro."
People got jokes in the chat.
Oh man, the chat's been hilarious tonight. Y'all are funny. There was a 12-year-old girl at the event, and she asked some great questions, man. She had some great questions that made us think, But here's the thing, and I want to say this to anybody in ministry watching, any parents, any youth pastors, whatever. We have to, these shows aren't to make fun of people and to attack people. It's because this stuff is working and it's drawing away people from God. We are trying to, even if people don't get it yet, we're trying to save people's lives. That's essentially what it is. It's a rescue mission. And so my mentor told me this a long time ago. The main way that the enemy attacks people in this country, or at least in the West, is through bad ideas, through false ideology or false theology. It's not yet through physical persecution. I say yet. Some parts of the world, that's what it is. That's what it's always been. So this is what we do. This is how we fight back. This is how we take back territory from the enemy, is that we challenge false ideas. But here's the good news. Here's the easy part, man. Yeah, we read. Yeah, we study. But the truth is easy to defend. At the end of the day, the truth is easy to defend. 1 + 1 is always going to be 2. It don't matter what I feel like that day. It don't matter what you say. It don't matter how many degrees you got that I don't got. 1 + 1 is always 2. Gravity is always true. Like, that wasn't supposed to rhyme, but it just did.
Yeah,
hey.
So, it is what it is, man. I hope and pray that at least if he don't see it, that some of the people that were thinking about donating see this first. Just think it through. Just tell us in the chat and the comments if any of the three of us said something that was factually incorrect. I'll relent. I'll recant. I'll take it back. But not that you disagree with. Disagreement's okay, but disagreement without an alternative is empty. If I or any of us said something that is factually incorrect, I'll take it back. But if it's true, then you got to live into that. You got to, I don't make up the truth. We don't make up the truth. We're simply communicating. And so I just want you, I don't want to see you go broke trying to support this ministry. He got to come up with another word too. That's the other thing, BK. I feel you, man. You can't call it that. You got to call it something else.
Yeah, because then don't complain about us. You know what I mean? Don't complain. You want to be us. I mean, you know what? From a different angle, right? White supremacy. One of the issues of white supremacy is they copy and they steal from black and brown people. They love what we bring to the table, but they don't like us.
Oh, snap. You get Kevin Wesley with the cultural appropriation joint.
That's kind of what he's doing.
Religious, was it ministry appropriation or religious appropriation? Yeah,
that's what he's doing.
That's wild.
How you any different?
Somebody said it was okay.
Oh, shout out to Pastor Bennett in the chat. What's going on, sir?
Yeah, shout out to Pastor Bennett. Yo, what's up,
sir?
Matter of fact, he recently debated Kevin Wesley, and from what I understand, man, gave Kevin Wesley that work. So that's what's up.
Yes, sir.
If we can raise 501, it's so specific too. 501. The panel battle rap. I'm with that. You put 500 in my Cash App. Not Cash. I don't have Cash App. In my PayPal.
Oh snap! Our friend's gonna body both of us, Alex. That's all, man. Dang,
for the right price. It can happen.
My
show fee went up, man.
Not even a G. Golly, just for 500, you can body both of us like that.
It is what it is, man. Times is hard, man. Times is hard. I'll take what I can get.
Oh, JP Davis trying to get us there.
Let's see. Oh man!
Y'all funny.
Hilarious.
Man, wait, who was it? Somebody said Revelator 07. He said, "Gone woke, go broke."
Woke gone broke. That's the wrong side of woke right here.
Yeah, that's woke gone wrong.
Woke gone wrong. Woke gone wild. Oh man. Yeah, man. This, as always, is fun, but at the same time, as much as we are having fun, it is very serious, right? We don't want people getting caught up in this. As Alex always says, the reason why we are Christians and we subscribe to Christianity because it's true.
Right.
It's true, and we have the receipts to back it up.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry, man. I'm going to cut you off, man. I apologize.
Go for it.
Let me say this too. You know, let's be misunderstood. Like, this is not just about Kevin Wesley, raising money and us, addressing that. Oh, snap! Trying to get us to that.
Yo, funny, man.
Yo, they really want to see Alfredo body is. They really want to see Alfredo. This is like that, man. That's crazy, yo. That's crazy. They gonna get to that. Oh man.
Wow.
But no, man. Listen, like everyone on this panel, I'm sure either has a video or a post or something like that where we're challenging mega church pastors or professing Christians or whatever who are trying to get that bag and doing so, for wrong intentions too. Like we do that. Like this is not just about...
I dropped a video today.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
The opening clip is two husband-wife pastor from Houston. Not gonna say no names.
Okay. Well, there we go. You know what I'm saying? So, like, it doesn't really matter who it is. Anybody trying to, get this bag wrongfully off of the community, you know what I'm saying, particularly if they use a spirituality to do so, like we're against it, whether it's somebody professes to be a Christian or not. Like that's irrelevant. Like we're against that, period. I got all kind of stuff against prosperity preachers and all that. I don't rock with that like whatsoever.
In fact, tomorrow at the bodega, that's what we're focusing on. It's the churchy edition.
Phil Fox gave
we're going to focus on. This got put on. Phil Fox is keeping it a buck.
He gave it. That's the $1 for the 501.
Right. Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. That's the one. You guys bring him out. Oh man, you guys are too much, man. But
we might have to do a cypher up here one day, man.
One day it could happen.
It could happen
for the right price. No, I'm just playing. You guys are great, very generous. Definitely appreciate it. You know what I mean? So, so with that being said, guys, it's Alex, Adam, and BK signing off. Peace.